All right, welcome back, everybody. It's MLB Now Home Style Edition. We welcome in our good friend and truly an insider, as he points out, Jon Heyman. How are you, John?
I'm doing fine. How are you, BK?
It's Mr. Inside and Mr. Inside. Remember, Army used to be the backfield of Mr. Inside, Mr. Out. See, you get that. You get that.
Absolutely. Well, we're all insiders now in our own regard.
John, here's a way of getting, and I know you love baseball history. We get to argue about this now. A way to get the baseball fix in. There's a simulated game that's starting. It's the MLB Dream Bracket presented by DraftKings. All 30 teams are going to be represented. They have an all-time team. They have an intricate way of putting together these teams. Also, there's a Negro Leagues team. There's an under 20, age 25 and under team. And there's going to be a bracket style tournament. They're going to do computer sim games April 20th to May 5th. And it's a way to just simulate and see the all-time greatest teams playing each other. I always loved doing that on the older sim games way back when. You probably didn't, John. See, I used to do computer sim baseball. Did you do that?
I didn't, but I can imagine that you did it.
John, as a kid, I used to put the baseball cards out on my bed and had Johnny Bench behind the plate. And, I have to have, Pete Rose at second. I'd move. Rod Carew would be out there. Can you imagine baseball all the time and play games?
Sure. We all did that. I could see that with all the baseball cards spread around. Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
I'm not the only geek out there.
No, I was a geek too. Yeah, you know it.
So let's geek out at this. We'll wonk out on baseball now. I looked at it here. Let's start with the American League to try to figure out who are the best teams out there. And I put this through. I went, look, Yankees, I think, are number one. Anytime you're putting, Gehrig, Ruth, DiMaggio, Mantle on the same team, you're stacking it up. Derek Jeter's now shortstop. They have A-Rod at third base. There's Berra and Dickey catcher. It's hard to get better catching than that 1 and 2. My surprise team, though, and I think I've done this when I've done computer simulated teams and tournaments, it's a tricky thing. When you have great players from different eras and they slot in just right, I think the Detroit Tigers are kind of a sleeper team here because you have Bill Freehan behind the plate, Miggy Cabrera, but then you have Gehringer, Kell, Trammell, Greenberg, Cobb, Kaline, and then you can have Horton or Kirk Gibson as DH. I just think they slot in beautifully. Give me your American League teams.
Well, that Detroit outfield is unbelievable, obviously, with Kaline and Cobb in there, and it's just fantastic. They got a terrific outfield, but I had the Yankees number one also. I had a hard time with that. It was close for me with the Red Sox. I thought the Red Sox pitching was the best. I don't want to be the one to tell Roger Clemens he's the number 4 starter, but I lined him up, and that's the way they came out. So you've got Lefty Grove as a starting pitcher. You've got Cy Young. You've got Pedro Martinez, and you have Clemens. So Boston, to me, was close to the Yankees, but you look at that Yankee lineup, they have an all-time great at every position of that lineup. You start with Jeter and then Mantle and then Ruth, Gehrig, Berra, etc. Reggie will be the DH. Again, I don't want to be the one to tell A-Rod he's batting 8th. I know he didn't love it the first time, but in this lineup, he probably bats 8th. But I like Detroit, too. I like Detroit. I like the A's. I like the Indians. And my surprise was the Twins. I still have them 6th, but they have more good players, you remember, and I like the fact you can mix the old with Walter Johnson and with Johan Santana and Bert Lyletter, and you come up with a great 1-2-3 punch there.
Well, yeah, that's the Twins are the Washington Senators. So you have Goose Goslin and all those guys come in. By the way, A-Rod is lucky that Red Ralph isn't playing third base. So I don't want to hear A-Rod complaining he's batting 8th. I'd get Red Ralph back in there.
No, I'm going with A-Rod as the third baseman. I think that's fair. But in this lineup, you could bat him 7th maybe. But, he's not Mantle, DiMaggio, Gehrig, Berra, Ruth. So to me, 8th is the proper spot for him at this point.
I know it's a thought exercise, but I'm figuring we don't have the same statistical database involved here, but I'm thinking that I don't think they're better than the Yankees or probably the Red Sox, maybe not even the Tigers, maybe right around the A's and Orioles, but a Negro Leagues team with Josh Gibson, Oscar Charleston, these guys were absolutely comparable, or maybe the better players at the time with guys like, Jimmy Fox, Mickey Cochran. So I don't know. I think the Negro Leagues team would be somewhere around 3, 4, or 5, which is a very, high place, I think, for that team. I wonder if we're underselling them or if they would actually be that good. I think they'd be that good.
Yeah, that's the issue. We don't know whether we're underselling them or what, because we didn't see them as much. The statistics aren't as insightful. We're not sure exactly, but we know that from when they did get a chance and came up and played in the major leagues, fantastic players that came out of the Negro League. So we know the talent is there. We know they're a terrific team. They may be, it's hard to say they could be better than the Yankees or Red Sox, but we really don't know. Maybe they are. But I'm kind of with you. I think they probably slide into that 3, 4, 5, which is fantastic. Those teams are filled with Hall of Famers, Detroit Tigers and the A's, the Indians, Hall of Famers all. That Tiger outfield, you throw Greenberg in there with Kaline and Cobb, 3 Hall of Famers, but there are basically 8 to 15 Hall of Famers on all of these teams.
Let's get to the National League now, John. I have the Cardinals number 1. Maybe it's not obvious. You think Cardinals, Dodgers, Giants, but the Cardinals have that mix of eras between Molina behind the plate, Pujols at first, Rogers, Hornsby, Ozzie Smith, Stan Musial, of course. They just really fit beautifully. But my sleeper team in the National League, it's not a sleeper team, but they fit in beautifully. The Phillies. I think the Phillies, when you have Schmidt, Utley, and Chuck Klein, Richie Ashburn in center field, vastly underrated. If you're thinking teams that have leadoff guys, I think the Phillies are kind of my sleeper team. I have them way up at number 2.
The Phillies are a nice balanced team, and they have some great pitching at the top. Obviously, Steve Carlton, one of the greatest pitchers of all time. You've got Grover Cleveland, Alexander in there as well, Robin Roberts. So you've got 3 Hall of Famers to lead it off, as well as that nice balanced line. But to me, the clear number 1 in the National League was the Giants. They have 4 500 home run hitters. That's tough to top. Bonds, Mays, Ott, McCovey. The middle of that lineup is absolutely stacked. And to me, their pitching was tied with the Dodgers for the best. I thought their hitting was better than the Dodgers, but I think their pitching was better. If you start out with Mathewson and Hubble and Marichal, and then you throw in Bumgarner, who is incredible, a clutch pitcher, as we know, in Lincecum, that rotation is extremely deep and talented. And to me, that lineup, I think it does, to me, play up against all the other teams combined. I do love the Cardinal lineup. I think the Cardinals have a fantastic lineup from all different eras. Musial, one of the greatest hitters of all time. Really, Pujols is too. That's fair to say. Ozzie, probably the greatest defensive player we've ever seen, although I like Andrelton Simmons a lot too. But their lineup is fantastic. There are a lot of great teams. To me, it was easier for me to pick the Giants number 1 than even the Yankees, because the Yankees and Red Sox to me were close. I thought the Giants were 1. I thought St. Louis, the Cubs, and LA were all in that mix from 2 to 4.
Well, I don't know, though. What about Barry Bonds, Jeff Kent, and Will Clark on the same team? What about clubhouse chemistry, John? I know you're big on that.
Well, we're playing on paper here, BK. I'm with you on this one. There's no chemistry involved in this. And look, hey, some people may not have loved some of the players, even on the teams that won from 10 and 12 and 14. Their chemistry turned out to be fantastic. So you never know how chemistry is. Chemistry is hard to predict, BK. And I'm going to say this Giants team is going to have better chemistry than you think. Equal to all the other teams.
We should really try to put that component in. I think there's just a fault to it. There's ways of doing these things.
Very good. But you know what? The Cubs have really good pitching too. We shouldn't leave out the Cubs for their pitching. Jenkins, Three-Finger Brown, obviously John Lester, incredible clutch pitcher. The relief pitching, excellent, especially we've got Suter and Lee Smith. Of course, those are the top two relievers for the rival Cardinals as well. They have the same 2 relievers. So I like the Cubs team. They have some all-time greats too. Obviously, Ernie Banks and Billy Williams, Hack Wilson, and they've got the newer players that are really good as well in Rizzo, Bryant, and Baez. So I think the Cubs are being overlooked a little bit here. I think they're awfully good. And obviously the Dodgers, from the top of their rotation, you've got Koufax and you've got Kershaw, you've got Valenzuela, you have Sutton. Their starting pitching is fabulous. And the hitters from the 50s that really populate that lineup with Hodges and Campanella and Reese and all the rest, it's pretty darn good too. But for me, the Giants with that power, I can't pick against a team with Mays and Bonds, McCovey, and Ott. To me, the Giants win that league.
You did that rant just so you could say Three Fingers Mordecai Brown. I know you. I
love that one.
All right, John, the MLB Dream Bracket presented by DraftKings wouldn't be fun without a little more competition. You can go to DraftKings, compete for thousands in prizes for free. By the way, you can play in daily and tournament long pools where you answer questions like what teams will win, player performances, and much, much more. Again, it's on MLB.com starting April 20th. John, we'll see each other in the flesh, baby, at some point.